Chapter 2836, Competition 11. Chapter 2836, Competition 11. Stop! A voice stopped the fighting. If you're so desperate to fight, why don't you go to Peace Grassland? Elder Wu suddenly showed up and scolded Gongsun Mu and Chu Yun. Gongsun Mu backed off silently. Chu Yun wouldn't have it. The students used to be so decent when I was here. They're cheating now. Elder Wu was displeased. He didn't like this woman, who had cheated on her husband before abandoning him. He asked, "Who cheated? How did they do it? What makes you think they cheated?" The three questions rendered Chu Yun speechless. She was certain Feng Wu had cheated. Otherwise, why would her students let her win? But how had Feng Wu cheated? She couldn't tell Elder Wu that Feng Wu had cheated by using her pretty face. That would sound ridiculous. Seeing that Chu Yun couldn't give an answer, Elder Wu frowned. If you don't have any evidence, you're slandering other people. Chu Yun, you're still the same after so many years. Chu Yun flinched a little. She couldn't help but feel intimidated by Elder Wu. Back when she taught in Imperial College, Elder Wu had been her direct superior. Elder Wu turned to Gongsun Mu. "Is the competition over?" "Yes." Gongsun Mu woke up from his reverie. He was still perplexed by the result. "Why haven't you made the announcement?" Elder Wu rolled his eyes at Gongsun Mu. "Yes, right." Gongsun Mu was reminded of what he needed to do. He cleared his throat and announced, "Imperial College has won the junior team competition." The audience was perplexed for a few moments before they realized what they had heard. "We won! I can't believe it! We won! I thought that one player was going to defeat all four of ours, but we won the competition! OMG!" After the initial astonishment, the audience applauded. Only 1/3 of the seats were occupied, but the clapping was louder than a full house. The students were flushed with excitement. Someone stood at the back. It was Chiuziu. He never left. He headed for the exit after falling out with his team. He thought Feng Wu would give in, but she didn't. He thought Chen Ziyun would ask him to return, but Chen Ziyun didn't. He then hoped the other team members would say something, but that never happened either. Chiuziu hadn't wanted to leave like that. He doubled back before he had even gone a few hundred meters. He stood behind all the seats and wanted to watch his team lose. He wanted to see everybody blame Feng Wu. He wanted to see Chen Ziyun regret his decision. He had imagined how Feng Wu would beg him to come back, but reality slapped him in the face. Weren't all the students from the military academy supposed to be geniuses? Why did this happen? How could they be so weak? How could they lose? Chiuziu was so angry he almost fainted. Chapter 2837, Competition 12. Chapter 2837, Competition 12. Nobody paid any attention to Chiuziu. They were all looking at Feng Wu, their hero. She was already stunning, and now, she had won a great honor for Imperial College. Her popularity among the students soared to a new height. At the very least, all the spectators here were impressed. After they left the arena, they all shared the exciting news with their friends. At the same time, only a few people were left in the arena. They were the team members from both schools. There was also Chu Yun, Gongsun Mu and Elder Wu. Chu Yun's face was livid. She glared at Feng Wu so hard that she wanted to poke holes in the girl. Feng Wu wasn't intimidated at all. She even smiled at Chu Yun. Chu Yun felt like punching the wall. She turned to Gongsun Mu. "Those were only the junior teams. The main competition will be tonight." Gongsun Mu nodded indifferently. Chu Yun glared at her team. "Let's go." Chu Yun had planned to stay on campus with the team, but given what had happened, she would rather stay in a tent than stay here. She didn't stop until they reached the mountain at the back of the school. She glared at Lan Xiefeng. "Why did you let her win? You can tell me the real reason now. Lan Xiefeng clutched his chest and smiled bitterly. I didn't. How dare you lie to me? Chu Yun wanted to slap him. Lan Xiefeng closed his eyes and repeated, I didn't. She didn't need such a favor either. Lian Xiao looked at Chu Yun. Haven't you realized how capable our fairy is? Their fairy. Chu Yun was infuriated by the way Lian Xiao addressed the girl. She scolded him. What fairy? Use her proper name. Lian Xiao said, Feng Wu didn't just save our captain. She saved all of us. Lian Xiao nodded when he saw how shocked Chu Yun was. We were surrounded by spirit stone worms in the secret essence mine, and they were going to kill us. Then Feng Wu suddenly appeared, killed all the worms, and saved us. Chu Yun's face darkened. Lan Xiefeng had mentioned that before. Didn't you say it was Zhuo Qinghuan, the owner of the true phoenix blood, who saved you? Chu Yun frowned. Lian Xiao shook his head. That was what we thought at first. After all, we were told there were no spiritual kings among the Imperial College students. So, when we heard Zhuo Qinghuan's name, we thought she was our savior. We only knew it was Feng Wu when we saw her on the stage today, Lian Xiao said in a tender tone. She was his goddess. Chu Yun didn't like the look in Lian Xiao's eyes when he said Feng Wu's name. She turned to Lan Xiefeng and wanted to tell Lan Xiefeng to discipline his teammate. However, she saw the same look on Lan Xiefeng's face. Chu Yun was astonished. Chapter 2838 Competition 13. Chapter 2838 Competition 13. When she looked at the other 3 team members, she saw the same looks on their faces. Chu Yun was furious. Although these 5 students weren't the most capable in the military academy, they had great potential. She was so disappointed. Are you all in love with her? Chu Yun's face was livid. They didn't deny it. Chu Yun bellowed, How dare Feng Wu seduce my students? I'll kill her. Lan Xiefeng and the other 4 boys grew anxious. You can't do that. Lan Xiefeng blocked Chu Yun's way. Chu Yun was even angrier. If you all like her, she'll create a wedge between you. None of you can have her. Lan Xiefeng smiled bitterly. Why do you think we're good enough for her? Chu Yun said, What do you mean? Lian Xiao said, She's too good for us. Chu Yun said, What? The other 3 boys said, We fancy her the way one would fancy a fairy. We only want to admire her from afar. We've never wanted more than that. Chu Yun was dumbfounded. What's that supposed to mean? Admire her from afar? Who does she think she is? Lian Xiao looked into her eyes and said sternly, Ms. Chu, there's something I've been meaning to tell you, and it's been bugging me and affecting my cultivation, so I'm going to say it. Chu Yun was perplexed. Lian Xiao said, I like her and consider her my goddess. That's my own choice and my business. I don't like it when other people tell me what to do. Chu Yun wanted to say something when Lian Xiao added, especially when they say it's for my own good. Chu Yun felt like she had been slapped. After being humiliated by Feng Wu, she was humiliated once more, and by her own students. Lan Xiefeng nodded. She's my goddess, and I won't let anyone criticize her. The other 3 boys stared at Chu Yun and nodded solemnly as well. Chu Yun was astonished. She couldn't understand what was happening. If she had been born in Feng Wu's previous life, she might have found these boys' behavior familiar. Fans would do anything to defend their idols. She said hurriedly, You're still too young to understand. I'm only trying to help you. Lan Xiefeng and the others looked at one another, and all seemed bored. Seeing that the boys wouldn't talk to her, Chu Yun got even angrier. No matter how much you like her, you shouldn't have let her win. This is such an important competition. Ms. Chu Yun. Lan Xiefeng raised his voice. I don't know if you didn't hear us or you're pretending you didn't. Let me say it again. We didn't let her win. She didn't need that. She's very capable. She's at least a spiritual king. The 5 of us can't defeat her together, let alone in a 1v1 battle. She didn't attack us, and that was very kind of her. Do you understand now? Everybody fell silent after Lan Xiefeng gave that little speech. Chapter 2839 Competition 14. Chapter 2839 Competition 14. Chuyin stood there, dumbfounded. She had heard Lan Xiefeng earlier, but hadn't wanted to accept the truth. Now that Lan Xiefeng was forcing her to accept reality, she was furious. "What's going on?" someone interjected. It was a familiar voice. They turned around and saw that it was the varsity team. Xing Changtian's face was livid. Behind him were his 4 teammates. They quickly walked over and stepped between Chu Yun and Lan Xiefeng. Xing Changtian looked from Chu Yun to Lan Xiefeng, and his face turned dark. "What did you do?" His eyes were filled with fury. Chu Yun snorted and didn't answer. Xing Changtian turned to Lan Xiefeng. "Answer me. How did you lose a battle that we should have won?" The 2 teams had arrived together. During the junior team competition, the varsity team went to walk around the campus, as if they were looking for something. They thought their junior team was so much better than Imperial colleges, and would definitely win the competition. However, they received the news when they were still walking around. The military academy's team had lost the competition. What? Xing Changtian couldn't believe his ears, and had come back in a hurry. "You really lost then?" Xing Changtian glared at Lan Xiefeng. Lan Xiefeng found Xing Changtian scarier than Chu Yun. "So?" he nodded silently. Xing Changtian said, "Why did you lose?" Lan Xiefeng said, "She's better than me." Xing Changtian frowned and stared at him. Lan Xiefeng nodded. "Feng Wu is a spiritual king." Xing Changtian asked, "Who's that?" He had never heard of that name before. He turned around and looked at his 4 teammates. LV Haobei, Lu Qinghe, Tang Mingjiang and Sun Jinyuan looked at one another before turning to Xing Changtian and shaking their heads. They didn't know who that was either. Lan Xiefeng smiled bitterly. If Feng Wu hadn't saved them, they wouldn't have noticed her either. "She's really good," said Lan Xiefeng. "She may be even better than Captain Xing." LV Haobei laughed. He glanced at Lan Xiefeng. "Have you forgotten which team you're in? No wonder Ms. Chu is so angry." Lan Xiefeng didn't know what to say. He had seen Feng Wu fight. Anyone who did would know how terrifying her swordplay was. "What technique does she use?" Xing Changtian asked. Lan Xiefeng still remembered the elegant way Feng Wu moved, and he blurted out, "She doesn't have any technique. She only uses one stance from the beginning to the end." He was telling the truth, but the proud Xing Changtian wouldn't believe him. "That's enough. She's just a spiritual king, and you're making her sound more than she actually is." Xing Changtian and the others thought Lan Xiefeng only said that because he wasn't a spiritual king himself and didn't know what spiritual kings were like. They thought he would find all spiritual kings unfathomably powerful. Chapter 2840 Competition 15. Chapter 2840 Competition 15. Xing Changtian said to Chu Yun, "It's just a battle between the junior teams. It's no big deal. We can defeat them in the varsity team battle." Chu Yun thought the same and was relieved. "Let's get something to eat." While the group from the military academy calmed down, Imperial College was still feeling overjoyed. In the arena. "Feng Wu! Feng Wu! You're amazing!" Chu Chu ran around Feng Wu like a puppy. He was so thrilled that he couldn't stop smiling. "Feng Wu, how can you be so amazing? They must have all been stunned by your beauty." Chu Chu almost couldn't form a coherent sentence. The other team members were more sensible than he was and knew it had nothing to do with Feng Wu's beauty. "Did you meet them before?" Sun Yu asked curiously. Feng Wu nodded. "Sun Yu said, they called you their savior. Did you help them? Feng Wu nodded. Yup. Sun Yu asked, when? Why don't we know about it? Feng Wu said, it was in the secret essence mine. She then added, they were surrounded by spirit stone worms and were almost killed. I killed the worms for them and gave them a paper crane. You really saved their lives. Chu Chu stared at her in amazement. Would they have died if you hadn't helped them? Feng Wu said, yes, they would have. Chu Chu said, are you saying you can defeat all 5 of them? Feng Wu said matter-of-factly, yes, I can. She sounded very serious. And the crowd was speechless. It was only then that they realized how capable she was. What's your level now? Chu Chu asked tentatively. I'm a spiritual king. Feng Wu didn't try to hide it. SSSS. Everyone sucked in their breath. A spiritual king. Feng Wu was a spiritual king. If that was the case, of course she could defeat Lan Xiefeng and his 4 teammates. OMG. Feng Wu, are you even human? How long has it been since you joined the academy? You've only just risen to Class B. Didn't you just join our team? You're already one of the 2 spiritual kings we have. That is to say, you're the second best player on the team. Her teammates were shocked by this piece of information. However, they were soon ecstatic. Chu Chu couldn't control his excitement, and said whatever was on his mind. Do you remember how Qiu Ziyu left us at a critical moment? The others had forgotten about Qiu Ziyu until Chu Chu brought him up. What they didn't know was that Qiu Ziyu was standing behind them in the doorway. He was trying to figure out how to quietly sneak back in and beg Chen Ziyun to forgive him. However, he heard his name before he stepped into the room. He didn't know if he should walk in or leave, so he just stood there. He wanted to know what his teammates thought of him. Everybody was busy condemning him at that moment. Do you remember how Feng Wu suppressed Qiu Ziyu? That means Qiu Ziyu knows how capable Feng Wu is. Sun Yu was the first to realize what had happened. Chapter 2841 Competition 16. Chapter 2841 Competition 16. Chu Chu said, yes, I remember that. I thought Qiu Ziyu didn't want to fight a girl, but I realize now that he's not generous like that. If he could, he would have hit Feng Wu back. Sun Yu said, that's right. That means Qiu Ziyu already knew then that Feng Wu is better than he is. However, he tried to stop Feng Wu from participating in the competition. Everybody tried to recall what happened. Sun Yu was right. Qiu Ziyu tried to use the incomplete registration form as an excuse, but Chen Ziyun exposed his little trick. Qiu Ziyu then tried to exclude Feng Wu by saying she didn't know the rules. All in all, he hadn't wanted Feng Wu in the competition. Sun Yu ground his teeth. Doesn't he know what we're facing? The military academy has been winning all this time. Does Qiu Ziyu have no idea how frustrated we've been? Chu Chu said, I'm sure he does. Sun Yu said, if he does, why did he try to stop Feng Wu from fighting in the competition? Chu Chu asked why. Sun Yu said, because he's jealous. He knew if he let Feng Wu compete, she would demonstrate her power, and everybody would be amazed. As the captain, he would feel humiliated. He might even lose his position. That's why he tried to stop Feng Wu. Qiu Ziyu broke into a cold sweat when he heard this. How could they have guessed it so correctly? That was exactly what he had been thinking. Hearing Sun Yu and Chu Chu's conversation, Wang Xiao felt his cheeks burn. He didn't dare look at Feng Wu. Meanwhile, the other team members started criticizing Qiu Ziyu as well. How could Qiu Ziyu do that? Did he think he could suppress a genius like Feng Wu? More importantly, doesn't he know what we're facing now? All he cares about is his personal gain. He isn't a team player at all. He even blackmailed us before the competition and forced us to fight 5 opponents with 4 players. If we didn't have Feng Wu, we would be crying our eyes out now. Where's Qiu Ziyu? I want to punch him in the face. Qiu Ziyu was speechless. Wang Xiao, who had been on Qiu Ziyu's side, was speechless as well. He didn't dare look in Feng Wu's direction and wanted to stay unnoticed. Qiu Ziyu took a step back and hid outside. He didn't dare look up, fearing that the others would beat him if they caught him. The subject soon changed after they were done criticizing Qiu Ziyu. Wait, we now have 2 spiritual kings on our team, right? Sun Yu was thrilled. Ziyun and Feng Wu are both spiritual kings. Everybody nodded. Sun Yu said, we were feeling so defeated before because they have 3 spiritual kings while we had 0, but we have 2 now. Everybody was reminded of the good news. Yes, that was right. Sun Yu's eyes were twinkling. Right? Right? We have 2 now. 2v3, I think we have a chance. Chapter 2842 Competition 17. Chapter 2842 Competition 17. Holy crap! You're getting me excited. Wang Nian, a member of the varsity team, patted Sun Yu on the shoulder. We may actually win. Everybody was excited. Their original plan had been to give all they could to win the junior team competition. Now that they had won, they became hopeful about the varsity team competition. Let's think about it, Sun Yu said excitedly. We've defeated their junior team and won the right to determine the order of their players. How should we arrange them so that we can win the 2v3 competition? Everybody was lost in thought. Feng Wu suddenly said, Who told you it's 2v3? Her question made everybody jump. Chu Chu was terrified. Feng Wu, you can't back out now. You're going to give us a heart attack. The others were as frightened as Chu Chu was. They were so worried that she wouldn't take part. Feng Wu chuckled when she saw their behavior. I didn't mean that. Chu Chu asked, Then why did you say it wouldn't be 2v3? They have 3 spiritual kings. Feng Wu said, I mean it's 3v3. What? Everybody was shocked. Sun Yu asked, Is there a hidden spiritual king among us? Who? Tell us. Feng Wu grinned at him. It's you. Sun Yu was speechless. Feng Wu only smiled. Sun Yu rolled his eyes at her. Xiao Wu, please don't make fun of me. I'd love to be a spiritual king, but I'm not. Do you know how hard Xian worked to become one? Do you know how long it took? He gave everything he got. It still took him 3 years to become a spiritual king. As for me, Sun Yu pointed at himself and smiled bitterly. It'll take me at least 3 more years to become a spiritual king if I'm ever going to become one at all. Maybe I'll never get there. A level 9 spiritual lord sounds so close to a spiritual king, but the actual gap is enormous. Feng Wu only smiled at him. The look gave Sun Yu the creeps, and he wondered what Feng Wu was getting at. Chen Xian came in and threw an arm over Sun Yu's shoulders. If Xiao Wu says you're a spiritual king, you're going to be a spiritual king. Sun Yu didn't understand. He looked at Chen Xian in bewilderment. Feng Wu took a small vial from her sleeve and handed it to Sun Yu. Sun Yu took it, still confused. Before he had time to react, Chen Xian removed the cap and poured the content into Sun Yu's mouth. Sun Yu was forced to drink it. What's this taste? Sun Yu frowned. That's awful. Why does it taste like piss? Feng Wu wanted to laugh. The liquid had been brewed in that pit, so the taste was unavoidable. It's the taste of a spiritual king. Feng Wu smiled mysteriously. Sun Yu didn't believe her. The others also thought she was joking, and no one took her seriously. I'm starving, Feng Wu said. Xiao Wu, let's get something to eat. Chapter 2843 Competition 18. Chapter 2843 Competition 18. Feng Wu was accepted by the team after the competition, and they began to think of her as a part of the team. Xiao Wu will gain at least 10,000 points from this competition. You should treat us to lunch. Chu Chu suggested. 10,000 points? Feng Wu was perplexed. I didn't know we could gain points. Chu Chu said, Of course we can. The school will reward us for winning a competition like this. You're the main reason for our victory, so you'll get at least 10,000. Feng Wu asked, What can I do with these points? Chu Chu said, There are so many options. You can use it on cultivation, weapons, techniques, and even pay for a meal at Star Cloud Tower. Feng Wu asked, What's Star Cloud Tower? Chu Chu stared at her. Seriously? You don't know what Star Cloud Tower is? Haven't you been there before? Sun Yu couldn't feel the effect of the spirit wine even though his spiritual essence was going through a drastic change inside him. He still thought Feng Wu was making fun of him and had completely forgotten about what he had drunk. He patted Chu Chu on the shoulder and said grumpily, It's only been a couple of months since Xiao Wu joined our school, and she only came to our team a few days ago. It's not surprising that she doesn't know what Star Cloud Tower is. That place is open to Class A students only. He then turned to Feng Wu. Star Cloud Tower is a special place. The food ingredients there all come from magical beasts. They're very rich in spiritual essence and can greatly benefit your cultivation. Only tutors and Class A students are qualified to eat there. Feng Wu said, If Class A students can go there all the time, you wouldn't be so excited. Sun Yu chuckled. Xiao Wu, you're so clever. That's right. We wouldn't find it so rare if we could go there whenever we want. However, the mysterious chef in Star Cloud Tower will only prepare one feast every month. The food will be very peculiar, but it'll do wonders for your cultivation. You'll suddenly feel enlightened about things that baffled you before. Everybody says the mysterious chef is an extremely capable cultivator, but no one has ever seen the person. Feng Wu said, Sounds like a floor-sweeping monk. Sun Yu was confused. Sweeping the floor? That's not what the chef does. He disappears as soon as he finishes cooking. Feng Wu cleared her throat. Chen Ziyun said, I heard the mysterious chef is Master Ling Hu's personal cook. He takes a day off every month to cook here, and waits for the right cultivator to come along. Master Ling Hu? Feng Wu's eyes lit up. The others screamed. Master Ling Hu? OMG! Are you talking about the Master Ling Hu? Chen Ziyun nodded. I only heard Mr. Gongsun mention it once. He wouldn't say more and only said we should spend our points on that meal whenever we can, or we would regret it for the rest of our lives. Is that so? That meal is rarer than in legend. Feng Wu said, Let's go. We'll book seats for today. Everyone stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. A booking? That wasn't an option. Chen Ziyun smiled bitterly. Let's go then. Maybe we'll get lucky. Chapter 2844 Competition 19. Chapter 2844 Competition 19. They quickly headed for Star Cloud Tower. The tower had 2 levels. The ground floor was the lobby filled with dozens of tables. It wasn't difficult to get a seat here. There was only one table on the second floor. It was reserved for the mysterious chef who only came here once a month. Although Star Cloud Tower was in Imperial College, the owner wasn't a member of the college and didn't follow the college's commands. However, the tower had a good relationship with Imperial College. The owner was called Ji Xingyun, who was a beautiful woman in her 20s. She greeted Chen Ziyun and his team with a smile. Captain Chen, to what do I owe this honor? Ji Xingyun got along well with Chen Ziyun and spoke to him in a casual manner. Chen Ziyun came here every month for a seat on the second floor and was quite familiar with this place. Miss Ji, you have to reserve a good number for us. Chen Ziyun chuckled. Ji Xingyun said, You don't have to tell me that. I always give you a good number, but you really don't have much luck. You've only eaten that meal once, right? Chen Ziyun rubbed his nose with an awkward smile. Feng Wu observed Ji Xingyun curiously. Ji Xingyun also noticed the stunning girl in the red dress. Her eyes lit up, and she beamed at Feng Wu. What a pretty girl! You're the legendary Feng Wu, aren't you? Feng Wu greeted her politely. She liked this young woman with a bright smile. Do you know her? Chen Ziyun asked curiously. I do know about things outside this tower, all right? The whole school has been talking about your competition today. We might not have known Feng Wu's name before, but after that glorious battle, everybody knows her name. The glorious battle? Chen Ziyun rubbed his chin. Ji Xingyun said, she saved the whole team at a critical moment and won back your dignity. If that's not a glorious battle, what is? She couldn't say enough good things about Feng Wu. She genuinely liked this stunning teenage girl. Ji Xingyun then handed a number plate to Chen Ziyun. The result will come out in 5 minutes. Take this. I think this should give you a bit more luck. She then lowered her voice. Master Taihe may be a little sensitive to this number. Master Taihe was the name of the chef. His rule was only the chosen one could eat his food. That was why he only came here once a month, and would only cook one table full of food. Rather than choose the highest bidder or the most talented, he would give the opportunity to the person chosen by fate. Every team in the waiting area would have a number plate. Master Taihe would randomly pick one after he finished cooking. The team with that number would eat the food. Master Taihe was still cooking now, and the result would be announced in 5 minutes. Feng Wu and her team saw countless people in the waiting area. At least hundreds of teams were trying their luck. They heard footsteps at the door. Chapter 2845, Competition 20. Chapter 2845, Competition 20. The footsteps sounded familiar. Feng Wu involuntarily turned her head and saw some familiar faces. Chu Yun led the way, and was followed by members of her varsity and junior teams, led by Xing Changtian and Lan Xiefeng respectively. What a coincidence! Sun Yu followed Feng Wu's eyes and almost exploded when he saw those people. Why are they here? Sun Yu said angrily. What? Everybody else turned their heads. They all rose to their feet when they saw who those people were. Chu Yun noticed them when they all stood up. The two sides didn't really speak to each other, and Chu Yun was going to ignore Dynasty Team as well. However, Xing Changtian walked toward his opponent. His 4 team members seemed equally interested and followed him. Chu Yun frowned but couldn't stop them, so she had to follow her students. Soon, Xing Changtian stopped in front of Chen Ziyun and stared at the latter. Chen Ziyun wasn't intimidated. He stood ramrod straight and stared back at Xing Changtian. The two sides were at daggers drawn. Xing Changtian suddenly raised his eyebrow and smiled. Ziyun, it's been a while. Chen Ziyun only stared at him and didn't say a word. Xing Changtian was still smiling, as if he was confident enough to rule the world. He said, I'm 1 year older than you, but for a while, you were always 1 step ahead of me. You joined Imperial College 1 year before I went to the military academy. You were always 1 level higher than I was. I was a level 7 spiritual lord when you were at level 8. You were at level 9 when I became a level 8. You were always a little quicker than me, and I thought I would be slower than you for the rest of my life. I never thought you would be stuck at the spiritual lord stage for so long. Finally, I'm 1 step ahead of you. I'll be a step ahead of you all the time. Chen Ziyun, you'll always be inferior to me. Xing Changtian smiled at Chen Ziyun. You'll feel the same jealousy I did for the rest of your life. Chen Ziyun stared at Xing Changtian without saying a word. Feng Wu glanced at Xing Changtian and said indifferently, You must be blind. She didn't try to be polite. Given Xing Changtian's status, not many people dared to speak to him like that. He was a little taken aback. He then saw the girl in a red dress to the right of Chen Ziyun. What a stunning girl. Are you Miss Feng Wu? Xing Changtian was a shrewd man who always kept a poker face. People around him always felt a chill run down their spines. Chen Ziyun stepped forward and stared at Xing Changtian. This is between us. Don't get other people involved. Xing Changtian chuckled. Is it? Chen Ziyun reminded him. You can't afford to offend her. Chen Ziyun laughed. Chen Ziyun, you don't know me at all. Chapter 2846, Competition, 21. Chapter 2846. Competition, 21. Chen Ziyun looked at Xing Changtian and suddenly wanted to laugh. Spiritual kings were incredible, but Xing Changtian was nothing compared with the crown prince. How dare he try to flirt with Feng Wu? What was that? Xing Changtian wasn't affected. He put on a look that he thought looked condescending. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. The man seemed to be trying to mimic Jun Linyuan. She couldn't help but get that feeling. Feng Wu glared back at him. Are you blind? Xing Changtian didn't know what to say. Ever since he made a name for himself in the military academy, no one had ever treated him like this. Before Xing Changtian could say anything, Lu Qinghe frowned. Young lady, do you know who you're talking to? Feng Wu glanced at him. A blind man. Ahem. Ji Xingyun couldn't help but burst out laughing. Xing Changtian glanced at her, so she cleared her throat. Everybody, if you're here to eat, there's still a table over there. Please take your seat. Chu Yun knew Ji Xingyun, so she said, We'll wait for Master Taihe. I see. Ji Xingyun nodded. In that case, you'll have to get in line. Chu Yun knew the rules, so they took the number plate and sat down. Xing Changtian kept glancing at Feng Wu. Lu Qinghe looked at Xing Changtian and whispered, Boss, do you have a crush on the girl? Xing Changtian didn't deny it. He nodded and said, She's good-looking enough for me. He didn't try to keep his voice down, so everybody heard him. Even Feng Wu's team heard him. Chen Ziyun couldn't believe it. Feng Wu. Did he just say Feng Wu was good enough for him? You must be dreaming. You've got to be as great as the crown prince to go out with Xiao Wu. Chen Ziyun rolled his eyes at him. Xing Changtian found Chen Ziyun's words idiotic. The crown prince? As in Jun Linyuan? That was very bold of Chen Ziyun, bringing him up like that. Xing Changtian smirked. You must have a death wish. Chen Ziyun rolled his eyes. Death wish? This man didn't know what he was talking about. You're going to get yourself killed and you won't know how it happens, Chen Ziyun said provocatively. Xing Changtian said, I'll say the same to you, but I know how you're going to die. His Royal Highness will kill you. Feng Wu found their conversation very boring. Xing Changtian was displeased when he saw that Chen Ziyun couldn't be bothered to talk to him. He had compared himself with Chen Ziyun since they were little. Before, his parents used to motivate him by using Chen Ziyun's achievements. Later, when Xing Changtian became stronger, he felt he could get back at Chen Ziyun. Defeating Chen Ziyun was his fundamental motivation for getting stronger. That was why he cut down Imperial College's flag after the military academy's team won the competition the year before. He had thought it was already kind enough of him not to stomp on the flag. He couldn't stand the fact that Chen Ziyun wouldn't even look at him. He glanced at Chen Ziyun and smirked. Do you know about His Royal Highness's relationship with the military academy? Chen Ziyun looked rather bored. Chapter 2847 Competition, 22. Chapter 2847 Competition, 22. I don't know about the relationship between the military academy and His Royal Highness. I only know that he's very close to our Imperial College. Xing Changtian smirked. Guess what? His Royal Highness is our school's honorary chief now. Chen Ziyun said, What? Xing Changtian said, One more thing. His Royal Highness is also the military team's chief commander. Northern Feng General was undoubtedly the most senior general in Peace Grassland. Apart from hundreds of thousands of soldiers, He also led 2 special troops. Both troops consisted of the most capable warriors. They had to be at least spiritual kings. During the battle against the Dongsang Kingdom, all participants would fight opponents of their own levels. That rule had been agreed upon by both countries. Otherwise, one advanced cultivator could annihilate a group of ordinary soldiers. That wouldn't be fair. The 2 special troops were the military team and dynasty team. Dynasty team's current chief commander was the mysterious elder of Imperial College, the one that no one had seen before. Jun Linyuan was the military team's chief commander now. It was Chen Ziyun's first time hearing about it, and he was shocked. His Royal Highness graduated from Imperial College. Xing Changtian chuckled. Given His Royal Highness's level, do you think he'll be confined by where he graduated from? He's the Crown Prince and our future Emperor. He can do whatever he wants. He then gave Chen Ziyun an arrogant glance. Do you know His Royal Highness is recruiting guards? Chen Ziyun said, Is that so? Why haven't I heard about it? Xing Changtian gloated. Only spiritual kings will be considered as candidate. You're not qualified. Chen Ziyun said, I don't think being a spiritual king will be enough to be His Royal Highness's guard. Xing Changtian said, They're only recruiting junior guards. Do you think you'll start as the Crown Prince's personal guard? You'll have to go through a lot of training and multiple selections before you can become a senior guard. Only then will you be close to His Royal Highness. This process will take at least 10 years. Xing Changtian clenched his fist. I'm sure I'll pass the test. Chen Ziyun looked from Xing Changtian to Feng Wu. The look gave Feng Wu the creep. What? She snapped. Chen Ziyun's eyes suddenly lit up. He realized that if he used Feng Wu as his shortcut, he might soon exceed Xing Changtian. Xing Changtian was displeased when he saw that Chen Ziyun wasn't discouraged. He was showing off, but Chen Ziyun wasn't jealous. Instead, it gave Chen Ziyun some motivation. Chen Ziyun, don't you have something to say? Xing Changtian stared at his archenemy. Chen Ziyun said, What? About His Royal Highness's guard? Of course, I want to become one. Xing Changtian glanced at Chen Ziyun and found his claim ridiculous. After getting satisfaction from showing off in front of Chen Ziyun, Xing Changtian couldn't be bothered to speak to him anymore. He stared at Feng Wu but was lost in thought. Chapter 2848 Competition 23. Chapter 2848 Competition 23. He thought, Did I speak too much? I'm supposed to be an impressive cultivator. His Royal Highness never says too much, and it only makes him more mysterious. Hence, Xing Changtian stopped talking, but he didn't look away from Feng Wu. She was so pretty and he found her very attractive. Xing Changtian let his imagination run wild. He even thought about marrying Feng Wu and having children and grandchildren with her. The idea only excited him more. She's the one. Xing Changtian made up his mind. Meanwhile, Feng Wu saw Chu Yun walking to the back of the tower. Feng Wu frowned and wondered where she was going. She followed Chu Yun. She then saw Chu Yun knocking on a door. That door normally wouldn't open, but it was open now. Feng Wu also noticed that there was a rhythm to Chu Yun's knocking, 3 long taps followed by a short one. Chu Yun then waved her number plate at the person who answered the door. Feng Wu recognized the person. It was Yuanbao, the little monk who served Master Linghu. Yuanbao had visited Feng Wu before and led her to Master Linghu. What was he doing here? Right. Feng Wu remembered that just like Yuanbao, Master Taihe was from the Wandering Temple. It wasn't surprising that Yuanbao was here. What surprised Feng Wu was that Chu Yun was cheating. She couldn't stand it. Feng Wu was going to try her luck this time. Seeing that Chu Yun was coming toward her, Feng Wu hid behind some shelves. Chu Yun was probably feeling guilty about her conduct, so she left as soon as possible. Feng Wu smiled when she saw Chu Yun leave. If her opponent decided to try using her connections instead of luck, she would do the same. She knocked on the door with the same rhythm. Yuanbao lost his patience. He shouted from the other side, "Stop this! Haven't I told you already? I'll let you eat the food for that favor we owe you. Why are you?" He opened the door and saw someone he didn't expect. Feng Wu smiled at him. "Sister Feng Wu, I missed you so much." Chu Yun came back with a gloating smile on her face. Chu Chu happened to lead Gongsun Mu into the room at that moment. Since the other team had Chu Yun, Dynasty team decided they should have a tutor here as well. However, no one thought about Zhua Qingluan. Chen Ziyun and his team had been ignoring Zhua Qingluan since the incident in the secret essence mine. Of course, the other students didn't know what had happened and still thought of her as a vice chief. When Gongsun Mu saw Chu Yun, he frowned and asked, "Did you go to the back room just then?" Chu Yun glanced at him. "What? Do I have to ask for your permission to go to the bathroom?" Gongsun Mu looked away and ignored her. Chu Chu said, "We're going to try our luck today. With Xiao Wu here, maybe Master Taihe will pick us." Gongsun Mu shook his head and asked Ji Xingyun, "How many number plates are there today?" 76, Ji Xingyun said briskly. Chapter 2849 Competition 24. Chapter 2849 Competition 24. Gongsun Mu looked at this team. "Are you going to try your luck? That's 1 in 76. The others shrugged. Gongsun Mu said, "Today is your competition. As your vice chief, I should give you a gift for this special occasion. Master Taihe owes me a big favor. He has agreed to cook me a meal to return that favor. I'm going to use that opportunity today." Did that mean that they didn't need to try their luck today? Dynasty team cheered loudly. The military team was displeased. However, Chu Yun smiled at Gongsun Mu. "Aren't you a little too late to do that?" "What do you mean?" Gongsun Mu stared at Chu Yun. Chu Yun only went on smiling. "Have you used it already?" Gongsun Mu's eyes widened. Chu Yun still wouldn't say anything. Gongsun Mu's face went livid. "You've crossed the line. I saved him, not you." Chu Yun shrugged. "So? I've used it already." Gongsun Mu shouted, "You!" Both teams were watching them. They seemed to realize what was going on. Master Taihe seemed to owe the two of them a favor, but Chu Yun used that opportunity for herself. She glanced at Gongsun Mu, knowing that there was nothing he could do. Xing Changtian and his team members gloated and kept giving Dynasty team provoking look. Chen Ziyun and his team were furious. Even someone as mild-mannered as Gongsun Mu was furious. Chen Ziyun stared at Ji Xingyun. "Does that mean our number plate is useless?" Ji Xingyun hadn't seen that coming either. It was very rare for Master Taihe to owe other people a favor. This was the second time he had used his feast to return a favor. Ji Xingyun gave Chen Ziyun an apologetic look. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know this was going to happen." Other Imperial College students waiting in the room were infuriated as well. They had all planned to give the opportunity to Dynasty team if they were chosen. Maybe that one meal would increase their cultivation level. Of the 76 numbers, only one number belonged to their opponent, but they still lost. They couldn't accept it. Xing Changtian was elated to see the angry faces. He smiled at Chen Ziyun. "Chen Ziyun, you've lost to me in every possible way. You're not a spiritual king, and you can't eat Master Taihe's food, even when we're in your territory." Chen Ziyun ground his teeth in frustration. Xing Changtian was right. They were in his territory, but he had lost. Feng Wu glanced at Xing Changtian. "Are you really that blind? My captain is a spiritual king. Can't you see that?" "What? A spiritual king?" To detect another person's cultivation level, one needed to activate their spiritual essence. Chapter 2850 Competition 25. Chapter 2850 Competition 25. Xing Changtian never thought much of Chen Ziyun, so he had never checked the latter's cultivation level. He finally did so. Feng Wu was right. You're a spiritual king too. Xing Changtian stared at Chen Ziyun. Chen Ziyun glanced at him. Why are you so surprised? Xing Changtian couldn't believe Chen Ziyun's tone. However, Xing Changtian managed to pull himself together almost immediately. He glanced at Chen Ziyun and smirked. You should have been a spiritual king a long time ago. What took you so long? Why are you so proud? Chen Ziyun didn't like his tone at all. Xing Changtian shook his head. Your team only has one spiritual king. That won't bother us. Feng Wu stared at Xing Changtian and wondered if something was wrong with his eyes. Right. I forgot. Xing Changtian smacked his forehead. Little Feng Wu here is a spiritual king too. How impressive. You don't get to call her Little Feng Wu. All 8 members of the dynasty team shouted at him in unison. Their stern tone almost made Xing Changtian jump. He frowned at them. It almost felt like they were defending their own sister. Since when were the students of Imperial College so united? The military team was surprised when they heard that both Chen Ziyun and Feng Wu were spiritual kings, but they weren't surprised for long. They had at least 3 spiritual kings and believed that they would win. Those 2 spiritual kings would only affect the process but not the result. However, the other students were astonished. What? Their team had 2 spiritual kings now. Did that mean they still had a chance? The news soon spread. All the students of Imperial College were thrilled. Holy crap! Feng Wu is a spiritual king. OMG! I can't believe she was in the same class as me a few days ago. My classmate is a spiritual king. I treated her as my enemy. I said things behind her back. I did those things to a spiritual king. I'm doomed. Class E students cheered at the top of their lungs. So did the students of classes D, C, and B. As for Class A, the students were used to Feng Wu's unbelievable rate of progress. They just wished she could graduate as soon as possible and stop shocking ordinary people on a daily basis. They used to think they were elites and geniuses, but when Feng Wu arrived, they felt like idiots. They didn't find it surprising that Chen Ziyun was a spiritual king. Unlike Feng Wu, Chen Ziyun made progress at the same speed as other ordinary students. However, does that mean we have a chance to defeat the military academy? That's right. 2 against 3. I think we have a chance. Let's watch the competition. I want to cheer for our team. Chapter 2851 Competition 26. Chapter 2851 Competition 26. Ji Xingyun came out at that moment. Xing Changtian sneered at Chen Ziyun before turning to his team members. Let's get ready to go in. Great. The others were all excited. They were in Imperial College. However, they had taken Dynasty Team's opportunity in their territory. It felt so satisfying. They couldn't begin to describe that feeling. Let's eat. LV Haobei and the others all gloated. Chu Yun gave Gongsun Mu a provoking glance and felt utterly fantastic. All the Imperial College students on the ground floor had stopped eating. Their faces turned livid. They all felt humiliated. This was so frustrating. They all wanted Ji Xingyun to tell them that Chen Ziyun's team could go in. Unfortunately, that wasn't going to happen. Chu Yun had told everybody she had asked the master to return the favor. This is unbelievable. Chen Ziyun ground his teeth and clenched his fist. You're going to pay for this. He glared at Xing Changtian. Xing Changtian laughed. We're going to pay? How? When? You don't need to show us the way. I know where it is. Chu Yun smiled at Ji Xingyun. Ji Xingyun felt conflicted. She raised an arm and blocked Chu Yun's way. What? Chu Yun frowned at Ji Xingyun. Ji Xingyun smiled. I'm sorry, but you can't go in. Chu Yun smirked. Then who can? Ji Xingyun pointed at Feng Wu. Them. What? The entire room fell silent. For a moment, everybody forgot to breathe. After that, they sucked in their breath. Chen Ziyun was the first to react. Us. Chen Ziyun pointed at himself. Are you sure? Ji Xingyun nodded with a smile. Yes, that's what I've been told. Chu Yun finally realized what was happening and stared at Ji Xingyun. No. That's not possible. Ji Xingyun shrugged. That's the truth. Chu Yun glared at her. That can't be. You're lying. This can't be happening. That's the only explanation. Ji Xingyun frowned. She was very easygoing, but as the owner of Star Cloud Tower, she had her temper as well. She stared at Chu Yun. You don't get to talk to me in that tone. You're not welcome here. Get out. Ji Xingyun knew what Chu Yun had done and found her behavior despicable. She had no problem scolding this woman. Chu Yun stared at Ji Xingyun in disbelief. How dare the owner of a restaurant shout at her? She was the assistant dean of the military academy. Ji Xingyun smirked. I don't care what your job title is in the military academy. It means nothing here in Imperial College. If you want to give me a speech, become the vice chief of Imperial College first. Chapter 2852 Competition 27. Chapter 2852 Competition 27. Chu Yun was so frustrated that she shook from head to toe. Feng Wu clapped her hands. That was very well said. She liked Sister Xingyun a lot. Fine. Chu Yun sneered at Gongsun Mu. That's so nice of Imperial College. You cheated in the competition, and you didn't even try to hide it. Gongsun Mu, is that how you teach your students? If you won't discipline her, I'll do it for you. Chu Yun was going to take action, when she heard an impatient voice. Yuan Bao came into the room. The little boy walked in with a big frown on his face. He was annoyed. Master Ling Hu always stayed in the temple, and Yuan Bao represented him in the secular world. It wasn't common knowledge, but the tutors of both schools knew it. Chu Yun and Gongsun Mu were both surprised by Yuan Bao's arrival. They both lowered their heads but stole glances at the boy. Chen Ziyun and the other students weren't senior enough to know who Yuan Bao was, so they were still eyeing him curiously. Gongsun Mu and Chu Yun scolded them. Lower your heads. What? Chen Ziyun and the other students were all confused. Gongsun Mu was seldom so stern, and it only showed how much the boy had startled him. They all did as they were told and lowered their heads. Both Chen Ziyun and Xing Changtian's teams did so. Yuan Bao walked up to them. His words were directed to Chu Yun only. Shut up! How dare you raise your voice here? Yuan Bao's tone was very domineering. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She only remembered Yuan Bao as the lovely shy boy who always enjoyed good food. She almost couldn't recognize him now. She then looked at Chu Yun. The woman lowered her head and let Yuan Bao scold her. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She realized once more how much ordinary people respected Master Ling Hu. Even the arrogant Chu Yun bowed her head to Master Ling Hu's little messenger. Yuan Bao stared at Chu Yun. I've decided to give the meal to Sister Xiaowu. Do you have a problem with that? Sister Xiaowu. Was he referring to? Everybody glanced at Feng Wu. Only Chu Yun could describe how she felt. Her face turned scarlet red at the boy's words, but she still had to squeeze out a smile. No, of course not. Yuan Bao snorted, threw a dirty look at Chu Yun, then ran to Feng Wu's side. He looked up at her with eyes filled with admiration. He tugged at her clothes. Sister Xiaowu, the master needs me, so I'll be off. I've saved the table for you. No other team can touch it. Feng Wu rubbed his little bald head. That's great. Thank you, my dear Yuan Bao. You're welcome. Unlike his harsh tone when he scolded Chu Yun, Yuanbao was a lovely boy when he spoke to Feng Wu. He gave Feng Wu one last look before he reluctantly took his leave. Once he was gone, the others raised their heads and looked at one another in wonder. Chapter 2853 Competition 28 Chapter 2853 Competition 28 Chen Ziyun wanted to ask questions, but he chuckled instead when he sensed Xing Changtian's stare. Xiaowu, let's go inside. The meal belongs to us now. Chen Ziyun glanced at Xing Changtian in satisfaction. Apparently, that favor wasn't as useful as it seemed. Xing Changtian recalled how he had shown off earlier, only to be stopped at the door. His face turned bright red. Of course, the greatest humiliation was felt by Chu Yun. She stared at Feng Wu from behind, and there was a malicious look in her eyes. She hated Feng Wu. However, she feared the girl as well. What was Feng Wu's relationship with Yuanbao? It wouldn't be too complicated if she were just Yuanbao's good friend. However, things would be very complicated if Master Ling Hu was involved. Feng Wu and her team smiled at Chu Yun when they walked past her. Chu Yun was astonished. They were provoking her, and there were also Imperial College students around them. They looked at the military college students as if they were a joke. They pointed at the military team and laughed among themselves. As if that wasn't enough, they also stole glances at the team. They made it so obvious. Chu Yun and Xing Changtian didn't react to their behavior, but the rest of the team wasn't as unperturbed as they were. They flushed red. Chu Yun sneered at Gong Sun Mu. Do you think you've won? Do I have to remind you that we're in the middle of a competition? This meal means nothing. I was going to make it easy for you, but now, you'll be sorry for what you've done. Let's go. Chu Yun led the team away after she threatened the others. Her words affected the students, but not as much as before. Imperial College had won the junior team competition and the meal. Both times it happened because of Feng Wu. Her team doted on her now. Everybody loved her. Needless to say, Master Taiha's dishes were delicious and effective. After they ate, Feng Wu told them to go to the arena immediately. Everybody was perplexed. Sun Yu said, "We still have 2 hours before the final competition. Why don't we go back to our own arena and take a break?" No. Feng Wu was very adamant. To the arena. Now. Everybody was confused. However, Feng Wu was the most beloved team member now, and everybody listened to her. All 8 of them went to the arena. The indoor arena could fit 10,000 spectators. The competition would start in 2 hours, but people were already coming in. From the high platform, one could see all of the audience. 10% of the seats were occupied. Although it wasn't their home game, the military college would still send a lot of students here to watch the final competition. Imperial College was on the left, and the military college was on the right. It was clear-cut. Just then. Chapter 2854 Competition 29 Chapter 2854 Competition 29 Just then, Chu Chu put his hands on his lower abdomen. My dantian feels warm. So does mine. Why does it feel like I'm making a breakthrough? The others exchanged bewildered looks. It wasn't just one of them. At least 6 people clutched their stomachs and said that it felt like they were about to make breakthroughs. Feng Wu grinned. Do it then. I'll guard you all. Make the breakthrough. Chu Chu looked at her in wonder. Is this the effect of Master Taiha's food? The others stared at her in amazement as well. That was amazing. This shouldn't be happening. Other students had eaten the food before. The meal was offered once a month. Although everybody praised the effect, it had never been on this scale. The reaction came too soon. Chen Ziyun gave Feng Wu a knowing look. She had gone into the kitchen earlier. That had to be the reason. If the girl said she had nothing to do with it, he wouldn't believe her. At that thought, he raised an eyebrow at Feng Wu and gave her a meaningful look. Feng Wu had nothing to say. The audience was amazed when they saw the team members suddenly sit down and start cultivating. They were indeed the best students of Imperial College. They only had a little time left before the competition, but they were still trying to cultivate. How amazing! Wait. Yihan, who was sitting in the audience, widened her eyes. Xiao Xiao glanced at her. What? Yihan said, did you notice that? Chu Chu made a breakthrough just then. I felt it. Xiao Xiao sensed Chu Chu's spiritual essence and nodded in amazement. Yes, I feel it too. He hasn't reached the next level, but he's half a level higher than before. What? Shit. Yihan was so thrilled that she blurted out, look at Li Zhan. Wasn't he severely injured before? He looks perfectly alright now. He has advanced as well. The spiritual essence around him is different from the others. Xiao Xiao tried to sense it as well. Yihan was right. Li Zhan isn't the only one. Zhao Si is doing it too. Xiao Xiao was so excited that he was almost in tears. Why are they making such rapid progress? Yihan said, rumor is that they went to eat Master Taiha's monthly feast. Xiao Xiao said, so, that food is really as amazing as they say. Yihan and Xiao Xiao looked at each other. Ling Hao and the others were thrilled as well. We'll go there every month from now on. I'm sure we'll get lucky one day. Many people thought the same way. It seemed Master Taiha would have a lot more customers for a long time. That news couldn't be kept a secret. The military academy soon caught wind of it. Imperial College had given the military academy students their own rooms. Right now, they were all sitting in their rooms in seclusion. It wasn't for their cultivation. Everybody knew cultivation was a lengthy process and couldn't be rushed. They were only sitting there to calm their minds. Chapter 2855 Competition 30. Chapter 2855 Competition 30. Just then, someone ran into their area to look for Chu Yun. It was Chiuziu. He used to be Chu Yun's student and knew her well. Do you want to talk to me? Chu Yun had a good impression of Chiuziu. Chiuziu looked at Chu Yun and said earnestly, I suggest you go to the arena now. Chu Yun was perplexed. Why? Chiuziu had never been so serious before. You'll regret it later if you don't go now. I've said what I'm here to say. It's up to you. That's all I can do for you. He was going to leave after that. Chu Yun frowned and stopped him. Why are you helping us? Chiuziu didn't speak. Chu Yun said, you're a student of Imperial College. Why do you want to help us? It was a competition between the two schools. It would affect the honor and future of both schools. Chiuziu was from Imperial College. Why would he do the military academy such a favor? Chiuziu stopped, turned his head, and looked at Chu Yun with eyes filled with hatred. Even Chu Yun jumped at that look. It seemed that Chiuziu hated Imperial College to the bone. However, that look reassured Chu Yun. She went inside and roused the students. Let's go to the arena. Something's happening. The students were all perplexed. Chu Yun didn't know exactly what was going on, but Chiuziu had come all the way to tell her, so it had to be something big. You'll see when you get there. Chu Yun led the way. Had something happened in the arena that would stop the competition from taking place today? She didn't want that to happen. They were in a hurry to get to Peace Grassland. Everybody was anxious. They arrived at the arena in no time. Seeing Gongsun Mu standing there, Chu Yun walked up to him and asked, can we have the competition on time or not? Gongsun Mu was watching Sun Yu in astonishment, and completely ignored Chu Yun. Chu Yun was displeased, thinking Gongsun Mu was ignoring her on purpose. Gongsun Mu, she shouted. Gongsun Mu was startled. He frowned when he turned around and saw Chu Yun. Be quiet, said Gongsun Mu. However, Chu Yun was furious. She was about to lose her temper when she saw something. She noticed Sun Yu. Then, she was shocked. OMG! She couldn't believe her eyes. That couldn't be happening. What did she see? She saw spiritual essence wrapping around Sun Yu like a cocoon. He was absorbing this web of spiritual essence. Chu Yun had been there before. She knew perfectly well that once he finished absorbing the spiritual essence, he would become a spiritual king. A spiritual king. Chu Yun panicked. Chapter 2856, Competition, 31. Chapter 2856, Competition, 31. Imperial College already had 2 spiritual kings. If he made the breakthrough, they would have 3. The military academy only had 3 spiritual kings. That was the only reason they thought they would win. Were they going to lose that advantage? No. Chu Yun wouldn't allow Imperial College to have a 3rd spiritual king. She was going to sabotage the breakthrough when she heard a cold voice in her ears. Chu Yun, remember, this is Imperial College. The voice sounded like it was from hell. It sent a chill down her spine. She was the only one who could hear it. This was the technique of sending a message to one specific person. Only a spiritual king or above knew this technique. Chu Yun shuddered. She already knew who was warning her. It was Elder Wu. Chu Yun realized he was right. She was in Imperial College's territory. How could she tamper with anything? If they had been in the military academy. Chu Yun sighed. Meanwhile, the military academy students were cursing in their mind. Shit! Why is Sun Yu? How? Xing Changtian and LV Haobei exchanged a complicated look. They had thought they would definitely win, but things wouldn't be so easy now. LV Haobei remained confident. He said casually, "They're all new spiritual kings. Their levels aren't stable, and they haven't learned any cultivation techniques yet. They won't be our match." Lu Qinghe agreed. There was no need to worry. They were still a much better team. The military academy was definitely going to win. However, Xing Changtian frowned when he looked at the other students. Wait. Sun Yu wasn't the only one. All the Imperial College students had improved to some extent. Xing Changtian had detected their cultivation level earlier when they were in Star Cloud Tower, so he knew what they were like before. They've all made some progress. Xing Changtian was a little flustered. He could understand if only a couple of them made progress. However, it was a big deal if all of them did it. It's been less than an hour, and they've all improved by at least half a level. What's going on? Xing Changtian ground his teeth. If a team could make improvements together, that was a terrifying idea. Lu Qinghe smacked his head. Shit. Is it because of Master Taihe? Didn't they say eating Master Taihe's food might help improve a person's cultivation? They ate it and they've all become better. Lu Qinghe and the others were so jealous. That feast should have been theirs. That opportunity should have been theirs. Jealousy and rage almost drove them crazy. Xing Changtian reacted in time and noticed their unstable mood. He said, "Calm down, all of you." The whole team immediately quieted down. Xing Changtian said, "Do you know why they're not cultivating inside? Do you know why they're taking the risk to cultivate on stage?" Chapter 2857, Competition, 32. Chapter 2857, Competition, 32. The others all looked at him. Lu Qinghe was the first to realize it. Shit. They're doing it on purpose. Who came up with that idea? How sly. Everybody looked at him. Lu Qinghe said, "They're deliberately cultivating here to distract us and boost their confidence. It's such a clever move." Xing Changtian, LV Haobei, and Lu Qinghe were spiritual kings. Tang Mingjiang and Sun Jinyuan were level 9 spiritual lords. The Imperial College students were cheering loudly for Sun Yu's breakthrough. Xing Changtian looked from them to their own seat. Because of their arrogance, their seats were still empty. He suddenly had a bad feeling. He couldn't pinpoint it, but he felt uneasy. He turned to his team. Let's summarize our opponents. Chen Xiun, Feng Wu and Sun, you are new spiritual kings. Li Xiaochu is a peak level 9 spiritual lord, and Wang Nian and Wang Xiao are advanced level 9 spiritual lords. However, Lu Qinghe glanced at Dynasty Team and said quietly, Wang Nian just became a peak level 9 spiritual lord. Xing Changtian didn't know what to say. Their opponents had just become stronger again. Was Imperial College going to win this year? Xing Changtian took a deep breath. Let's see what we've got. LV Haobei, Lu Qinghe and I are spiritual kings. Tang Mingjiang and Sun Jinyuan are peak level 9 spiritual lords. We and our opponents have exactly the same levels. We both have 3 spiritual kings and 2 peak level 9 spiritual lords, but we have a better chance because we made the breakthroughs earlier than they did. We've mastered the cultivation techniques for a longer time. Captain. Lu Qinghe smiled bitterly. That may not be the case. Do you want to say this is an away game for us? Xing Changtian frowned. I'm sure we can overcome that disadvantage. Lu Qinghe reminded him, we lost the junior game. Xing Changtian's face darkened. That was right. That meant Imperial College would determine the sequence of their 5 players. Shit. Xing Changtian had forgotten about that fact, which was why he had been so proud. The idea was a hard blow to his confidence. Xing Changtian gave Lan Xiefeng a dirty look. How could they have lost that competition? Lu Qinghe said, Captain, glaring at Lan Xiefeng won't change anything. Since Feng Wu is a spiritual king, our junior team couldn't have one. Tang Mingjiang was displeased. Isn't she ashamed of fighting for the junior team? She's a spiritual king. Lu Qinghe said, I asked around. That Miss Feng Wu only finished the paperwork to join the team today. The others were speechless. Lu Qinghe smiled bitterly. Even some of her team members questioned her qualifications to join them, so there was no way they would have put her on the varsity team. We also thought that she was a weakling at first. The others were speechless. Lu Qinghe glanced at Chu Yun. Miss Chu insisted that Feng Wu only won because Lan Xiefeng let her. The others were speechless. That was so embarrassing. Forget about Feng Wu. Xing Changtian frowned. We must win this competition. I'll use that thing if I don't have any other choice. Chapter 2858 Competition 33. Chapter 2858 Competition 33. All his team members knew what he meant. They all knew that method, but because they had thought they would win, they never expected to use it. However, Feng Wu and her team were leaving them no other choice. Xing Changtian smirked. Feng Wu is too proud. She probably has yet to show all her cards. LV Haobei also sneered. She'll pay for her pride. Lu Qinghe said, being a spiritual king has made her so arrogant. We'll teach her a lesson. Tang Mingjiang and Sun Jinyuan smiled smugly. Meanwhile, Feng Wu's team was still feeling excited. Chen Xiun looked from Feng Wu to the other team members and said casually, Isn't that spirit wine so precious to you? Why did you put it in our food? Feng Wu said, Did I? Do you have evidence? Chen Xiun didn't. He was intrigued. She had done a good thing. Why wouldn't she tell anybody? Why stay anonymous? Feng Wu wanted to shake her head. Of course she wanted to remain anonymous. Letting the others know would only create endless trouble. There were so many tutors and students in Imperial College. They could all come to her to ask for some spirit wine. If they only wanted a drop, would she give it to them or not? Therefore, she didn't give it to Elder Wu. However, she secretly helped her team. Chu Chu was the first to finish cultivating. He ran to Feng Wu in excitement. Xiao Wu, I've improved. I'm a level 9 spiritual lord, too. Feng Wu pointed at Sun Yu. Holy crap! Chu Chu saw that Sun Yu had become a spiritual king. He then realized that all his teammates had made great progress. He said, Master Taiha's food is so powerful. They were making progress as a group. Dynasty team had never felt so good. They're staring at us. Chu Chu glanced at Xing Chongtian's team and smirked. He's glaring at me. He's such a bad loser. By then, everybody had finished cultivating. They were all in high spirits, and nothing could wipe the smiles off their faces. Feng Wu and Chen Ziyun went to the side to discuss the sequence for the other team, and the other members were left on stage. From now on, we're going to the Star Cloud Tower every month to see Master Taiha. The others all nodded. Do you really think our progress was because of Master Taiha? Wang Nian asked tentatively. Is it not? The others were intrigued. I thought it was Master Taiha too, but I heard Captain Chern talking to Xiao Wu just then. She added something to the dishes, which is why we all made progress. What did she add? I think it was the legendary spirit wine. Holy shit! Spirit wine? I heard about it from my tutor. She said everybody used to make fast progress when the school had a lot of spirit wine. No one got stuck at the spiritual king stage. However, the spirit wine ran out. Chapter 2859 June 1. Chapter 2859 June 1. Other people might think the spirit wine has run out, but Elder Wu mentioned that Xiao Wu found a bottle of spirit wine in the secret essence mine. What? She was almost buried alive, and she was still able to bring out a bottle of spirit wine? Yes. Elder Wu tried to ask her for some, but she wouldn't give him any. But she added some to the dishes we ate. How did Sun Yu become a spiritual king? How did we all make progress? It's all because of Xiao Wu. Wow. After that, everybody knew what had happened. Feng Wu was the reason they had all made progress in their cultivation. Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu. Everybody ran to her side. Feng Wu had just figured out the sequence for the other team with Chen Ziyun. The spirit wine was supposed to be a secret, so they couldn't thank Feng Wu openly. However, they still felt they should say something. Both the spirit wine and Master Taiha's dishes had come from Feng Wu. No one could deny that. They all looked at Feng Wu but didn't know what to say. Feng Wu knew what they were thinking. She glanced at them and said, You're going to jump over a cliff if you can't win this battle. Yes, of course. Everybody nodded. Sun Yu stared at Feng Wu in excitement. He had made the greatest progress of all of them and had become a spiritual king. Without Feng Wu's help, he might never have become one in his lifetime. I won't allow anyone to disrespect you in the future, Sun Yu said solemnly. If they do, I'll kill them, along with anyone who tries to spread rumors about you. Feng Wu didn't know how to react. Just then, she saw people coming into the arena. And more kept coming. There hadn't been that many people during the junior team competition. Not only was the auditorium full, the judges had arrived. Chen Ziyu knew Feng Wu didn't know most people here, so he explained to her, the military academy students all sit in the area on the left. They're here to support their team. Because it's an away game for them, they take up only about 1/3 of the seat. The area on the right belongs to our school. They didn't want to watch us at first, but the seats are all occupied now. I think they have some confidence in us. Look there. Chen Ziyun pointed at the judges. The 2 seats in the middle belong to the 2 people with the highest authority from the 2 schools during this competition. Elder Wu will represent our school. That elderly man represents the military academy. He's Gongshu Hongzhu, a major general in the army. His status in the military academy is the same as Elder Wu in our school. Next to Elder Wu is Mr. Gong Sunmu, and next to Major General Gongshu is Miss Chu Yun. We're still waiting for one more person. Feng Wu asked. Who? The chief judge. Chen Ziyun gave Feng Wu a meaningful look. His Royal Highness, the sixth brother of His Majesty, has been the judge for as long as I can remember. This year is no exception. His Royal Highness? Feng Wu asked. Is he the one who is away all the time and lives like a wandering ranger? Chapter 2860 June 2. Chapter 2860 June 2. Chen Ziyun said, yes. Not only is His Royal Highness a capable man, he's strict and impartial. He's been our judge all these years and has never missed any competition. When he comes. Just then, they hear noise outside. It was a hubbub of excited voices. I think His Royal Highness is here. Chen Ziyun smiled. But he was perplexed. His Royal Highness was an ordinary-looking middle-aged man. He didn't look like a royal member, and the energy he gave off reminded one of a sharp sword. People usually stayed away from him. Why was there so much noise? It wasn't like he was the crown prince. Just then, he heard an excited voice. His Royal Highness, the crown prince, is here. What? Everybody was astonished. His Royal Highness. Jun Linyuan. Seriously? Soon, a teenager walked into the arena. Wrapped in a black robe, his perfect figure reminded one of a pine tree. He had smooth skin and deep-set features. As he walked, his energy seemed to spread to the entire arena. Everybody felt a chill run down their spines. Feng Wu frowned a little when she saw Jun Linyuan. What was he doing here? Why did he come? Feng Wu asked Chen Ziyun. Isn't it supposed to be the crown prince's uncle? Chen Ziyun was equally perplexed, but he reacted quickly. Since the crown prince is here, is it possible that His Royal Highness will be the chief judge today? Feng Wu said, Are you sure? While they were talking, other people were already greeting Jun Linyuan. The audience was thrilled. Yi Han grabbed Ling Hao's hand. It's His Royal Highness. It's the crown prince. She didn't dare make too much noise, so she controlled herself and lowered her voice. Ling Hao was equally excited. It's him. It's him. Gosh, I never thought I could be so close to His Royal Highness. Ziling was also excited. She held Chaoga's hand and trembled with excitement. Chaoga, look, it's His Royal Highness. It's the crown prince. Just like all the other girls, Ziling was over the moon. Why aren't you excited? After her initial excitement, Ziling was perplexed when she saw the look in Chaoga's eyes. Chaoga said, Why are you so excited? It's only the crown prince. Ziling's eyes widened. It's only the crown prince? Chaoga, you're so arrogant now. Why do you make it sound like you can see His Royal Highness all the time? Chaoga rolled her eyes. She saw the crown prince all too often. He seemed perfect, but all he wanted was to steal Xiao Wu away. Chaoga pouted. However, she didn't dare say any of that out loud. When Jun Linyuan was around, she was as obedient as a lamb. Hearing Ziling's question, she thought, I've seen the crown prince so many times. I even ate with him on several occasions. All the judges stood up and looked at Jun Linyuan. Gongshu Hongzhu lifted his chin in an arrogant manner. He pushed Elder Wu out of the way and sat down in the seat that was the closest to the crown prince. Chapter 2861 June 3. Chapter 2861 June 3. Jun Linyuan hadn't come alone. He had a few people with him. Feng Sun and Xian Yi were by his side, followed by Feng and a few others. Gongshu Hongzhu moved closer and wanted to greet Jun Linyuan, when Feng Sun frowned. General Gongshu, outsiders must stay 2 meters away from His Royal Highness. Only people like Feng Sun and Xian Yi could stay within a meter of him. Gongshu Hongzhu's smile stiffened. He wasn't discouraged. Instead, he took a step back and smiled at Feng Sun. Thank you for your reminder, my lord. Your Royal Highness, this way, please. To the students, Gongshu Hongzhu was a supreme figure. However, Gongshu Hongzhu was nothing compared with Jun Linyuan. He hardly ever had a chance to meet Jun Linyuan, let alone approach him. Being a judge this time had given him a great opportunity. From the moment he walked in, Jun Linyuan didn't look at anybody. He would only glance in a certain direction every now and then. Hey! Chen Zian tugged at Feng Wu's sleeve. Do you think His Royal Highness has been looking in our direction? Feng Wu said decisively, No. Chen Zian gave her a strange look. No? Are you sure? Feng Wu repeated, Definitely not. Chen Zian was confused. I really don't understand you. It was obvious that the Crown Prince had been looking this way. Suddenly, he felt a chill run down his spine. He looked up and was frozen on the spot. OMG! The Crown Prince was looking at him. No. To be more precise, the Crown Prince was glaring at him. Captain, what's wrong? Sun Yu was perplexed. Chen Zian couldn't form a coherent sentence. He was panic-stricken. A thought struck him. Thump, thump, thump. He took a few steps away from Feng Wu. The power that threatened to crush him suddenly disappeared. He had guessed correctly. The Crown Prince really had a thing for Feng Wu. Feng Wu was perplexed. Why are you moving away? Come over here. Chen Zian waved his hand in a fluster. I'm sweating. I'll just stand over here. Feng Wu was about to walk to his side, but Chen Zian waved his hands repeatedly. Please don't come near me. I can just stand here. Really? If Feng Wu moved any closer, he would burst into tears. Feng Wu frowned and wondered what was wrong with the man. Just then, Chu Chu jumped out of nowhere. Xiao Wu! Xiao Wu! He made a gesture, trying to put his arm around Feng Wu's shoulder. It was only a gesture because he knew Feng Wu would react quickly and dodge his arm. Chen Zian watched in horror. All he could think of was Chu Chu's miserable death. It was too late to stop him. Chen Zian stuck out his foot and stuck it between Chu Chu's legs. With a thump, Chu Chu fell to the ground, face first. Chu Chu was speechless. He didn't know how that had happened. Chapter 2862 June 4. Chapter 2862 June 4. Chen Zian then looked in Jun Linyuan's direction. Jun Linyuan was talking to Elder Wu and wasn't looking at him, but Feng soon gave him the thumbs up. Boss Feng was pleased. Chen Zian let out a breath of relief and grinned. He understood everything now. It was so obvious. He couldn't understand how Feng Wu could refuse to accept reality when it was obvious that the Crown Prince liked her. Wah! Still lying face down on the ground, Chu Chu wailed. Only then did Chen Zian realize he had kicked Chu Chu to the ground, so he immediately helped his teammate up. Are you alright? Does it hurt? Chen Zian feigned a concerned tone. Chu Chu was perplexed. Captain, was that you? Chen Zian said, Chu Chu, you're a big boy now, so be smart, or you'll get yourself killed one day. Chu Chu said, Aye. Chen Zian said, You're a boy and she's a girl. Keep your distance. And don't call her Xiao Wu. Chu Chu was dumbfounded. What should I call her? Chen Zian said, Anything but Xiao Wu. You can even call her boss Xiao Wu. Understood? Chu Chu nodded. Chen Zian reminded everybody how to address Feng Wu correctly so that all his teammates could stay alive. Sun Yu was confused. Captain, are you in love with F? The Crown Prince immediately shot a glance in their direction. Chen Zian felt his hair stand up. No, I'm not. Chen Zian glared at Sun Yu. If I have inappropriate thoughts about her, let me be condemned forever. Sun Yu was frightened. He didn't understand why his captain was so serious. Chen Zian whispered, Watch your mouth. You'll get us in trouble. Sun Yu didn't quite understand what he meant, but he had a clue and glanced at the Crown Prince. By then, everything was ready. Everybody fell silent. Chu Yun had been trying to strike up a conversation with the Crown Prince, but Jun Linyuan stopped her with a harsh look. Just then, Gongsun Mu said, "Shall we start the competition now?" Jun Linyuan nodded. Chu Yun glanced at him. "Shouldn't His Royal Highness be the one to make that decision?" Gongsun Mu looked at Jun Linyuan. Jun Linyuan looked at the crowd, but Feng Wu was the only one he could see. He didn't look at Chu Yun and only said, "Gongsun, you can do it." He knew Gongsun Mu well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked Gongsun Mu to look after Feng Wu. Gongsun Mu nodded and made the announcement. The two teams were asked to go on stage. Chu Yun threw a dirty look at Gongsun Mu and was determined to find an opportunity to talk to the Crown Prince. The audience fell silent for a brief moment after the announcement. Then everybody cheered and applauded. The voices went through the roof. The audience clapped for several minutes until the two teams were ready to go on stage. The military team was led by Xing Changtian. Dynasty team was led by Chen Ziyun. Chapter 2863 June 5. Chapter 2863 June 5. Chen Ziyun was the first player, followed by Feng Wu, Sun Yu, Wang Nian and Li Xiaochu. Wang Xiao used to be one of the team members. For some reason, he didn't make any progress this time, and had to sit on the bench instead. The junior team members were substitutes for the varsity team. The competition would sometimes go into overtime, and the substitutes would compete instead. Xing Changtian was filled with excitement. He and Chen Ziyun stood very close to each other. Xing Changtian seemed pleased. He glanced at Chen Ziyun. "His Royal Highness is the referee this time." Chen Ziyun nodded. "I know that," Xing Changtian said. "He's the honorary president of my school." Chen Ziyun said, "All right." Xing Changtian glanced at him. "Do you think your breakthroughs can affect us?" Chen Ziyun said, "So?" Xing Changtian said, "With His Royal Highness here, my team will definitely win." Chen Ziyun said, "Are you suggesting His Royal Highness will be biased toward you?" Xing Changtian found the question idiotic. Wasn't that obvious? Chen Ziyun rolled his eyes at Xing Changtian. Xing Changtian said, "What's that supposed to mean?" Chen Ziyun offered no explanation, but he looked quite pleased. The last thing the Crown Prince would do was take the military academy's side. However, Chen Ziyun was going to keep that piece of information a secret. He wanted to see the look on Xing Changtian's face when he finally found out about the relationship between Feng Wu and the Crown Prince. It would be incredible. Xing Changtian frowned. Somehow, he felt Chen Ziyun was up to something, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Gongsun Mu's face darkened when he saw Chen Ziyun and Xing Changtian whispering to each other. Without hesitation he said, "Dynasty team, please announce the order of your players." While Jun Linyuan was the chief referee, Feng Sun and Xian Yi didn't have anything to do, so they went to sit with Chaoga. Chaoga was sitting with Ziling, Yi Han and a few others. There were some empty seats beside her, so she waved at Feng Sun and Xian Yi when she saw that they were looking for seat. "Over here." At first, the others didn't know who she was waving at, but then they saw Feng Sun and Xian Yi coming their way. Ziling didn't know what to say. Yi Han was speechless. The other people around them also stiffened. Young Lord Feng Sun was coming here, and so was young Lord Xian Yi. They weren't just a pair of ordinary young lords. They were the only childhood friends of the Crown Prince. Their words carried more weight than that of many government officials. "What are you doing there?" Chaoga patted the seat next to her. "These seats haven't been taken yet. Sit down. The competition is about to begin." Feng Sun and Xian Yi nodded and sat down. They had come here at the last minute, and almost all the seats had been taken. It took them a while to find Chaoga. The school had left seats for them, but Feng Sun didn't want to sit there. He liked to blend in and listen to the voices of the ordinary students. Chapter 2864 June 6. Chapter 2864 June 6. Everybody was astonished. Duan Chaoga just waved her hand and Feng Sun came over. Were they very close? But none of them asked anything. They remained straight in their seats and kept their gazes on the stage. In fact, they had all pricked up their ears to listen. "Why are you all here?" Chaoga asked Feng Sun. Yihan was amazed. By the sound of it, Duan Chaoga seemed to be very familiar with young Lord Feng. She kept listening. Feng Sun said, "Somebody heard that somebody else was going to be in the competition. You know what I mean." Chaoga immediately got the hint. "I see." But the others were confused. They heard everything, but they understood nothing. Who was somebody? Yihan was dumbfounded. She glanced at Chaoga before looking at Jun Linyuan again. His Royal Highness. He was so handsome. His every movement looked as beautiful as a picture. Gong Sun Mu said, "Dynasty team will announce the order of the players on the military team." The military academies section of the audience erupted in rage. What? Why does Dynasty team get to decide that? There must be a mistake. The Imperial College students were pleased. Of course there's no mistake. Your school lost the junior competition. The Military Academy students said, "How is that possible?" The Imperial College students said, "Of course it's possible. Why do you think we're the ones announcing the order of the players?" The atmosphere was tense even before the competition started. Chen Ziyun then made the announcement. Tang Mingjiang will be the first to compete, followed by Sun Jinyuan, Lu Qinghe, Lv Haobei, and Xing Changtian. The audience frowned. That order was from the weakest player to the strongest. Xing Changtian had been the first player the year before, and he had single-handedly defeated Dynasty Team. After a lengthy discussion, that was Imperial College's plan this year. Why? The audience and judges were all confused. Even Dynasty Team didn't understand. All the team members looked at Chen Ziyun. Chen Ziyun shrugged. "It's Xiao Wu's decision." Chu Chu said, "Xiao Wu, what's the reasoning behind that order?" Having been taught a lesson by Chen Ziyun, Chu Chu had almost called Feng Wu Boss Wu, but he decided Xiao Wu sounded better. Feng Wu said, "I just want to give everybody a chance to take part in the competition." Chu Chu asked, "Is that all?" Feng Wu said, "That's all." The others were speechless. On second thought, they decided Xiao Wu was too wise to make such a simple decision. There had to be something behind it. Everybody's eyes lit up when they thought about the possibility. Both teams had 3 spiritual kings. Although Dynasty teams were newer and weaker, they still had a chance. The team was excited. But right at that moment, buzz! They heard the sound of fluctuating spiritual essence. It was something that had happened to Sun Yu before. The audience stirred. Dynasty team grew uneasy. The sound came from the military team. Chapter 2865 1 verses 5-1. Chapter 2865 1 verses 5-1. Everybody looked at the military team. It was Sun Jinyuan, the second player. He had just become a spiritual king. OMG! This shouldn't have happened. The military academy now had 4 spiritual kings. How did that happen? The Imperial College students felt defeated. That was such bad news. They lost all hope. 4 spiritual kings. They wouldn't stand a chance. In contrast, people of the military academy were smiling in satisfaction. So what if you can decide the order of our players? We're so much more capable than you. No matter how you arrange our players, we can still crush you. I knew it. There's no way we'll lose this competition. The military academy is invincible. Some of them even started singing. Ling Hao and his friends were furious, but they didn't know how to retort. They could only insist that 3 of them could defeat 4 opponents. Needless to say, their opponents sneered at them. Meanwhile, the competition finally began. Tang Mingjiang was the first player from the military academy. Everybody was eager to see who the Imperial College would send first. Were they going to send Chen Ziyun, their strongest member, or Wang Nian or Li Xiaochu, their weakest? Chen Ziyun looked at Feng Wu. He still had some say in the team when the Crown Prince wasn't here. However, His Royal Highness was here now, and he seemed very protective. Chen Ziyun didn't have a death wish, so he waited for Feng Wu to make the decision. The other teammates were perplexed and didn't know why their captain wouldn't say anything. Chen Ziyun ignored them and only looked at Feng Wu. He would do whatever Feng Wu told him to. Feng Wu looked at Chen Ziyun. "Are you sure about letting me command the team?" Chen Ziyun nodded. "Yes. You can pick whoever you want." Feng Wu tilted her head. "I think if we want the maximum effect, we should use the fewest number of people to defeat the most number of opponents." Chen Ziyun said, "Of course." Feng Wu said, "In that case, I'm sorry, guys." The others were confused. "Why are you apologizing?" Feng Wu said, "The military team is yelling about how Xing Changtian and LV Haobei defeated our team last year, and they're so pleased." Chen Ziyun and the others were embarrassed. It was true. It only took the military team 2 members to defeat the dynasty team the previous year. It was such a humiliation. Feng Wu said, "How do you think we should return that favor and leave them with no excuse?" Sun Yu said, "The only way to do that is to defeat all 5 of them with 1 player." He knew that wasn't possible. Feng Wu nodded. "You're correct." "What?" Everybody gave her strange looks. What was that supposed to mean? Feng Wu said, "Only one of us will fight this time. We'll rob them of all their confidence." Chapter 2866, 1 verses. 5, 2. Chapter 2866, 1 verses. 5, 2. What? Everybody stared at her in disbelief. What was she talking about? Was she even hearing herself? Chen Ziyun was astonished. "Feng Wu, aren't you a little too confident?" Feng Wu said, "Don't worry about me. I'm only apologizing because you guys probably won't get to compete this time." Sun Yu said, "It's not that, Xiao Wu. We don't mind whether we compete or not, all the better if it can help us win, but," he said gingerly, "His Royal Highness is up there, and I think the military academy is going to slaughter us. None of us want to get beaten in front of the Crown Prince." Wang Nian and Li Xiaochu nodded as well. Feng Wu said, "That's good. If it could be avoided, she would rather stay out of this competition." However, the military academy was too arrogant, and she had to teach them a lesson. Countless people had looked down on Feng Wu and questioned her capability. They said she was a good doctor and formation master, but she couldn't fight. Really? Feng Wu decided to demonstrate her capability in this competition. Gong Sun Mu was urging them. "Dynasty team, please send your first player now." Everybody looked in their direction and wondered who would be the first to be defeated. Feng Wu walked up the stage. Her red dress set off her fair skin and bright eyes. When the lower hem of her dress flapped in the wind, she looked like a fairy. No one could take their eyes off her. "Feng Wu!" She was the first player. Yi Han cried out, "I thought she would come out much later. She's about the second best player on the team. Isn't it a bit too early now?" The military academy students asked, "Who's that? A new spiritual king? Never heard of her before, but she's really pretty." Boys were very generous when it came to pretty girls. Feng Wu and Tang Mingjiang were both on the stage now. Tang Mingjiang was amazed by Feng Wu's good looks, but he soon regained his posture. He frowned. "Isn't it a bit too early for you to come up?" Feng Wu said, "No." Tang Mingjiang said, You should be fighting a spiritual king. That's the fair way to play. Feng Wu said, Why should I be fair to you? Tang Mingjiang was taken aback, but he smirked. Even if you're a spiritual king, I'm still better than you. Feng Wu said, We'll see. She didn't give Tang Mingjiang any chance and immediately drew out her fallen star sword. The first stance. Sword of the other world. Thump. She had practiced that stance countless times in the secret essence mine. Tang Mingjiang wanted to parry the strike. But he never thought that Feng Wu's strike would be so powerful. It was like a tightly woven net that he couldn't break free from. The sky went dark and thunder rumbled. Boom! A streak of lightning struck Tang Mingjiang. Whoosh! The sword left a mark on him from the top of his head all the way to his waist. Chapter 2867, 1 verses. 5-3. Chapter 2867, 1 verses. 5-3. If the cut was any deeper, it would slice him in half. Tang Mingjiang stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. All the audience stared at Feng Wu as well. That was so fast. I know Tang Mingjiang is a level 9 spiritual lord and Feng Wu is a spiritual king. He's supposed to lose, but why did he lose so soon? It only took Feng Wu one strike to defeat him. All the Imperial College students were shocked. The Military Academy students were shaken as well, but they soon recovered. Don't worry about it. That's only the first round. Feng Wu must be trying to destroy our confidence. That's why she used her most powerful strike right away. That's right. Sun Jinyuan is next. He just became a spiritual king. He'll teach Feng Wu a lesson. They were all trying to intimidate Feng Wu. The Military Academy students found her quite pretty at first. However, after seeing how fierce she was, they didn't like her so much anymore. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chu Yun was displeased. Feng Wu has always been an arrogant girl, and she's getting worse. Gong Sun Mu, is that how you've been teaching your students? Chu Yun was alarmed when she saw how the Crown Prince couldn't keep his eyes off Feng Wu, so she tried to slander her. Gong Sun Mu only rolled his eyes at Chu Yun and wouldn't reply. Chu Yun got even more frustrated. Feng Wu stole our meal in Star Cloud Tower, and she's fighting like this now. Who does she think she is? Jun Linyuan hadn't paid much attention to Chu Yun, but she wouldn't stop talking. He cast a stern glance at Chu Yun. His eyes were so dark that they looked like bottomless pits. Chu Yun felt a chill run down her spine. A pair of invisible hands seemed to wrap around her neck to choke her. She was overwhelmed with fear. What was going on? She tentatively raised her head and stole a glance at Jun Linyuan. She had to be mistaken. However, she looked into a pair of cold eyes. She felt her blood curdle. Chu Yun was frightened. She turned away and lowered her head. Her mind had gone completely blank. She had never felt so terrified before. By then, the second round had started. Feng Wu versus Sun Jinyuan. The Imperial College students were concerned because Feng Wu was a girl. The Military Academy was very confident because Sun Jinyuan was a spiritual king. Even if Sun Jinyuan can't defeat Feng Wu, he'll still badly injure her, Lu Qinghe said in a sorry tone. LV Haobei rolled his eyes. Then you'll defeat her without an effort. Why are you sighing? Lu Qinghe shook her head. I don't want that. I want a fair game. Chapter 2868, 1 verses. 5-4. Chapter 2868, 1 verses. 5-4. LV Haobei said, I don't think you'll get what you want. Lu Qinghe said, I know. Sun Jinyuan and Feng Wu should be of the same level. It'll take them a while to finish this battle. He then raised his eyebrows. I actually hope Sun Jinyuan can lose because I want to see this girl up close. LV Haobei said sternly, Lu Qinghe, This is a competition between two colleges. Stop hitting on girls. Lu Qinghe stuck out his tongue. What a pity. I'm sure Sun Jinyuan won't give me that chance. Meanwhile, Feng Wu and Sun Jinyuan's battle had begun. Sword of the other world. Feng Wu used the same stance. She only knew 3 stances because that was all her beautiful master had taught her. 3 stances were more than enough. Sun Jinyuan couldn't withstand even one of them. As soon as Feng Wu struck, Sun Jinyuan was overwhelmed by the pressure. The shockwave spread from Feng Wu toward him. It was as if heaven and earth had changed color. Lu Qinghe sprang to his feet and stared at Feng Wu. Everybody held their breath. It was the same stance, but it was much more powerful than when Feng Wu fought Tang Mingjiang. The sword's energy filled the air. There was killing intent between the two players. Feng Wu's sword arrived before Sun Jinyuan had time to react. Run! Sensing the danger, Sun Jinyuan tried to escape. But the spiritual essence surrounded him, blocking his way. Everybody clenched their fists. The Imperial College wondered if Feng Wu could defeat Sun Jinyuan. The Military Academy wondered if Sun Jinyuan could dodge the strike. As it turned out, he couldn't. When he turned to run, the sword hit him in the back. Whoosh! The tip of the sword slid across his back. No one knew what Sun Jinyuan was wearing, but they could tell it was made of metal. They saw something when the tip of the sword slid down his back. Buzz! Sparks were created from the friction of metal colliding. Sun Jinyuan's robe was sliced open, revealing the metal armor below. It was made of a special metal. Even so, the armor was almost cut in half. Sun Jinyuan touched his back, and the armor fell off in 2 halves. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. That was so terrifying. If it hadn't been for the armor, he would have been cut in half. He turned around and glared at Feng Wu. He had exerted the power of a spiritual king. He had thought the two of them should be of the same level, but Feng Wu obviously had the upper hand. However, Feng Wu, is that all you've got? Sun Jinyuan smirked. After the battle with Tang Mingjiang and that strike just then, you've used up your spiritual essence. It's my turn now. Sun Jinyuan was going to use his most lethal strike. Lu Qinghe shook his head. Feng Wu is doomed. Even if she can survive this, she'll still be severely injured. Sun Jinyuan is angry, and he's going to use his most powerful strike, Shadow. That was the killing strike that Sun Jinyuan was the proudest of. Chapter 2869 Chosen 1-1. Chapter 2869 Chosen 1-1. That was the killing strike that Sun Jinyuan was the proudest of. He had practiced it countless times. Sun Jinyuan smirked. He believed that Feng Wu's spiritual essence had run out, and he was still in peak condition. He was going to show Feng Wu how capable he was. Shadow. Feng Wu, you're going to die here today. Sun Jinyuan growled. The next second, he disappeared from the spot. Everybody had been watching Sun Jinyuan because he said Feng Wu was going to die. They were astonished when Sun Jinyuan disappeared. Where's Sun Jinyuan? How did he do that? Look, there's Sun. Before that student could finish, Sun Jinyuan had reappeared behind Feng Wu. Sensing this, Feng Wu suddenly turned around. But Sun Jinyuan wasn't there anymore. On your left. When Feng Wu looked to her left, Sun Jinyuan was gone once more. Sun Jinyuan was moving faster and faster. In the end, Feng Wu seemed to be surrounded by him. They were all afterimages left by his fast movement. Lu Qinghe sounded sorry. I knew it. As soon as Sun Jinyuan uses shadow, Feng Wu is finished. LV Haobei nodded. That's right. Lu Qinghe said, I was looking forward to fighting her. It's too bad I won't get that chance. LV Haobei nodded. She's pretty. I don't think Sun Jinyuan will kill her. Lu Qinghe agreed. She's so pretty. It'll be a pity if she's severely wounded. I would pity her. They didn't try to keep their voices down. Why is it a little chilly? Lu Qinghe crossed his arms and saw that his hair was standing up. LV Haobei frowned. Does your neck feel cold? Yes. Lu Qinghe nodded. My back is cold, like death is on me. They looked around but couldn't tell why they were feeling that way. Both saw fear and bewilderment in each other's eyes. Was it a ghost? Meanwhile, Feng Wu was in a disadvantageous position. Sun Jinyuan kept changing directions and striking out with his blade. Feng Wu was busy parrying his strikes. Captain, what do you think? Sun Yu asked nervously. Chen Zian said casually, she won't lose. The other team members were amazed. Why are you so sure? Feng Wu was obviously losing. Chen Zian leaned against a column and smiled. Even if Sun Jinyuan is better than Feng Wu, he won't dare defeat her. Don't worry. He wouldn't dare. Everybody was speechless. Why is that? Is she some sort of chosen one? Chu Chu asked curiously. Chen Ziun looked at the man that couldn't keep his eyes off Feng Wu. He chuckled. That's right. She's the chosen one. Chapter 2870 Chosen 1-2. Chapter 2870 Chosen 1-2. The Chosen One. Everybody looked at Chen Ziun and shook their heads. No one believed him. They ignored the indifferent Chen Ziun and discussed it among themselves. Captain Chen is too confident. I don't believe him. That's right. I think he's infatuated with Feng Wu. I don't know where he gets that kind of confidence. Don't mind him. What do you think are the chances of Feng Wu winning? Chu Chu asked. Sun Yu said, 30%. Wang Nian said, 20%. Li Xiaochu said, I think lower than 10%. Chu Chu was speechless. You don't have any confidence at all. Li Xiaochu rubbed his nose. She already defeated Tang Mingjiang. I think she's done her job. He had a point. Hence, everybody agreed that Feng Wu was going to lose. Once they accepted that, they didn't feel so flustered anymore. Even her teammates felt that way, so the audience had even lower expectations. Yihan rubbed her hands. I only hope Feng Wu can badly injure Sun Jinyuan before she loses. That way, the next player can defeat Sun Jinyuan. Feng Sun gave her a strange glance. Yihan asked gingerly, My lord, did I say something wrong? Her coy tone gave Chaoga the creeps, and she snapped at Yihan, Of course you're wrong. Xiao Wu is invincible. She's going to defeat all 5 of them. Yihan was speechless. She didn't want to talk to Chaoga anymore. She found her confidence insufferable. Chaoga said, I mean it. Xiao Wu is going to defeat all 5 of them. Just wait and see. Yihan rolled her eyes and muttered, Stop bragging already. Chaoga snorted and ignored her. Up on the stage, Feng Wu stood still and narrowed her eyes. Sun Jinyuan was fast, but he wasn't nearly as fast as she was. This battle had only lasted this long because it was part of her plan. She couldn't reveal her real strength all at once. Xing Changtian was a tough enemy. She couldn't raise his guard. She would show her cards one at a time. That would be much more interesting. By now, they had exchanged 10 blows. Feng Wu had given Sun Jinyuan enough time. While Sun Jinyuan was still jumping around like a clown, Feng Wu flipped her hand. The next second, Sun Jinyuan froze on the spot. His eyes widened in disbelief. Feng Wu had caught him by the throat with her fair fingers. No, that's not possible. Sun Jinyuan felt his mind go blank, and he couldn't move a muscle. Feng Wu had rendered him immobile. Chapter 2871 Chosen 1-3. Chapter 2871 Chosen 1-3. He had lost all strength and almost fell to his knees. Everybody else was as shocked as he was, if not more. Because they had thought Sun Jinyuan would win. Hadn't Sun Jinyuan cornered Feng Wu? Wasn't she losing? Why? How did Feng Wu grab Sun Jinyuan's neck and subdue him? The military team, dynasty team, and the students of both colleges were all speechless. Everybody seemed dumbstruck and didn't know what to say. Yi Han pointed at Feng Wu. Has she really won the battle? No one knew how conflicted Yi Han felt. She ran into Feng Wu on the first day of school and saw Feng Wu as an enemy because Feng Wu was too pretty. Unfortunately, the two of them ended up in the same dormitory and had a fight. Yi Han put a hand to her chest. She couldn't understand how bold she had been then. She had once been hostile toward Feng Wu. She used to be Feng Wu's enemy and tried to set Feng Wu up. Yi Han buried her face in her hands and wanted to erase all those memories. It was so embarrassing. Chaoga was very pleased. When the others remained silent, she was the only one who said, "He's just one spiritual king. Xiao Wu can fight 3 more. Everybody stared at her in amazement. Gosh! Why did she have to say such a thing? The 3 remaining players wouldn't be as easy to handle as Sun Jinyuan. Gongshu Hongzhu said, I didn't know Feng Wu was so talented. The crown prince finally glanced at him. Of course his girl was talented. However, Gongshu Hongzhu didn't stop there. But she's too arrogant. She tried to hide her real capability when fighting Sun Jinyuan. She'll die on a real battlefield. Of course, Gongshu Hongzhu wasn't going to compliment his enemy. He would only say bad things about Imperial College students. Feng Wu's actual quality didn't matter. She belonged to the other team. Gongshu Hongzhu wouldn't treat her any other way. He was a member of the military academy, so he would discredit the Imperial College students in front of the Crown Prince in every possible way. He didn't notice that the little smile on Jun Linyuan's face had disappeared as his eyes darkened. Gongsun Mu knew better, so he interjected, No, she won't die. Concealing her true power is a good thing. It means she's more than capable enough to defeat Sun Jinyuan. Gongshu Hongzhu smirked. She's only slightly better than Sun Jinyuan. We still have 3 more players. He then glanced at the Crown Prince. He wanted the Crown Prince to know that the military academy still had much more capable fighters. Chapter 2872 Chosen One 4. Chapter 2872 Chosen One 4. Gongshu Hongzhu wanted the Crown Prince to become familiar with his team. That way, many of them would become the Crown Prince's guards one day. It would be a great honor for the military academy. Gongsun Mu chuckled. I think Feng Wu is going to keep fighting. Maybe she'll defeat all 5 members of your team. Jun Linyuan glanced at Gongsun Mu, pleased by what he said. However, Gongshu Hongzhu laughed. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. The Crown Prince's face darkened. Feng Wu was standing casually on the stage when another military team member showed up. His Royal Highness, this is Lu Qinghe. He's the 3rd best student in the military academy. Gongshu Hongzhu tried to introduce his student. This was a great opportunity to let the Crown Prince know their faces. Jun Linyuan said grimly, All right. Gongshu Hongzhu said, His Royal Highness, Lu Qinghe is a slim boy, but he's known for his great strength. Just wait and see. Feng Wu won't withstand one punch from him. The Crown Prince's expression was livid. Gongshu Hongzhu wanted to say more good things about Lu Qinghe, but he felt the temperature drop, and the Crown Prince's eyes glinted coldly. He cringed and stopped talking. He thought Lu Qinghe had offended the Crown Prince before, and he cursed the boy in his head. Feng Wu and Lu Qinghe faced each other on stage. Lu Qinghe looked Feng Wu up and down. She was very beautiful from afar. Up close, she was stunning. Lu Qinghe was infatuated for a moment. Feng Wu didn't like the look in his eyes, and she frowned. Shall we begin? Lu Qinghe said arrogantly. You should give in. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She found Lu Qinghe's request idiotic. What did you say? Lu Qinghe said. What are you waiting for? Surrender. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Was this man dumb? LV Haobei told Xing Changtian, I didn't know Lu Qinghe had this gentle side. He knows Feng Wu can't defeat him, so he asked her to give in to avoid possible injury. He's usually a very upright man. He never shows girls such courtesy. Xing Changtian chuckled. She's pretty. That's understandable. They didn't keep their voices down, and all the cultivators heard them. So did Feng Wu. If she could, she would curse them with all the swear words she knew. Many people thought Feng Wu should surrender now because she had defeated 2 people already. Even if she gave in, she would still earn much respect. Even the Imperial College students felt that way. Sun Yu also thought Feng Wu should stop while she could. Chapter 2873 So Proud. Chapter 2873 So Proud. Both Gongshu Hongzhu and Chu Yun said that if Feng Wu didn't give in now, she would be humiliated when Lu Qinghe kicked her off the stage. Feng Wu smiled at Lu Qinghe. Is that what you think will happen? Lu Qinghe said, I'm already being very generous. Feng Wu said, there's something else you can do. Lu Qinghe asked, what's that? Feng Wu punched him in the stomach. Get out of my sight. Everybody was astonished. Because Lu Qinghe was the team member they were so proud of, and the one they didn't think could possibly lose. He had even told Feng Wu to give up. After Feng Wu hit him, he flew backward like a broken kite. It almost looked like something in a slow-motion video. Everybody's mouths fell open when they saw Lu Qinghe fly off the stage. The military team, dynasty team, and the students of both schools were astonished. They had been shocked when Sun Jinyuan lost. Now, they didn't know what to say. All eyes were on Lu Qinghe. They saw Lu Qinghe fly off the stage and over the audience toward the wall at the back. Thump! They only realized what had happened when Lu Qinghe smashed into the wall. It really happened. The battle was over. Gongshu Hongzhu almost jumped to his feet. Jun Linyuan casually said, Did you say he's the 3rd best student in your school? Gongshu Hongzhu didn't know what to say. He froze on the spot and didn't know if he should cry or not. He's not. He was too astonished to respond to the Crown Prince's sarcasm. Only then did the students realize what had happened. OMG! Feng Wu! Am I seeing things? Did that really happen? Lu Qinghe was defeated without making a move. Students of the military academy wanted to cry. They had thought that Feng Wu would defeat Sun Jinyuan at most, and Lu Qinghe would win the battle without breaking a sweat. They didn't know how to react now. It was as if Feng Wu had punched them in the face, too. In contrast to their reactions, the screams of the Imperial College students went through the roof. Roar! They howled like wolves. They were so excited. It was so inspiring. Unlike when she fought Sun Jinyuan, Feng Wu defeated Lu Qinghe with one punch. Bravo! Feng Wu is the best. Feng Wu is invincible. Feng Wu. All the cheering wasn't enough to express their excitement. They itched to run onto the stage and toss Feng Wu up and down in the air. Chapter 2874 Archenemy. Chapter 2874 Archenemy. Gongsun Mu was so proud. Feng Wu did a great job. Recalling how the military academy had humiliated them the year before, he smiled even more widely. However, he feigned a modest tone. That's nothing, really. Xiao Wu's punch came a little too fast, and your 3rd best student was half a second too late. If he had reacted a little faster, Xiao Wu wouldn't have defeated him so easily, right? Gongshu Hongzhu threw a dirty look at Gongsun Mu. That man was obviously showing off how fast and clever Feng Wu was. Gong Sun Mu cleared his throat. Well, you still have more players. There's no need to get upset. Chu Yun glared at him. Gong Sun Mu, you're very talkative today. You're so happy, aren't you? Gong Sun Mu used to be terrified of Chu Yun when they were married, but this time, he grinned. Well, I'm in a great mood today. Chu Yun ground her teeth. Gong Sun Mu had changed. He wasn't as obedient as before. Had he stopped loving her? At that moment, someone jumped out of his seat and ran out of the arena. It was none other than Chiuziu. No one knew how complicated his feelings were. He hated his former teammates, especially Chen Xiun. However, he also burned with jealousy when he saw how all the team members had made progress because of Feng Wu. He had thought he would get his revenge when the competition started. He wanted Imperial College to lose. He wanted to see Feng Wu die. Reality slapped him in the face over and over again. He watched as Feng Wu defeated Tang Mingjiang, Sun Jinyuan and Lu Qinghe. Chiuziu couldn't sit still anymore. He needed to seize Zhuo Qinghuan. He knew Zhuo Qinghuan and Feng Wu were archenemies, and he believed that Zhuo Qinghuan had to know a way to handle Feng Wu. He ran as fast as he could. Finally, he found Zhuo Qinghuan in her garden. Miss Zhuo. Miss Zhuo. Chiuziu was panting from all the running. Zhuo Qinghuan frowned. She was cultivating, and no one was allowed to disturb her. She was going to throw Chiuziu out, when he shouted, Feng Wu is going to win. What? Zhuo Qinghuan's face darkened. She knew the competition was taking place, but she didn't have any interest in watching it. She was a vice chief of the academy and was too important to attend such a competition. Moreover, Gong Sun Mu hadn't invited her, so she simply ignored the event. What did you say? Zhuo Qinghuan opened the door with a wave of her sleeve. Chiuziu rushed in and shouted, Miss Zhuo, I have bad news. Feng Wu has defeated Tang Mingjiang, Sun Jinyuan and Lu Qinghe. She's getting all the attention. He knew how Zhuo Qinghuan would react since she was someone who got jealous over the smallest thing. Chapter 2875 Feng Wu is prettier. Chapter 2875 Feng Wu is prettier. As Feng Wu's archenemy, of course Zhuo Qinghuan couldn't live with that. It was incredible. Zhuo Qinghuan didn't plan to intervene, but when she heard Feng Wu's name, she became very displeased. She stared at Chiuziu. Keep talking. Chiuziu said, Feng Wu has defeated Tang Mingjiang, Sun Jinyuan and Lu Qinghe. Zhuo Qinghuan rolled her eyes at him. She knew the level of all three students and had some idea of Feng Wu's level because she had fought her before. It didn't surprise her that Feng Wu had defeated the three boys. Is that it? Zhuo Qinghuan asked indifferently. She didn't watch the competition because she didn't want to see Feng Wu win. Chiuziu was taken aback. Was that news not enough to persuade Miss Zhuo? Fine. Chiuziu played his last card. His Royal Highness is here, too. Zhuo Qinghuan paled. His Royal Highness? Are you sure? Her face went livid. She didn't want to see Feng Wu win, but what if Jun Linyuan saw it? He already was. No. He didn't like Feng Wu at all. Feng Wu just wouldn't leave his Royal Highness alone. What if his Royal Highness really fell in love with Feng Wu after seeing her fight? Zhuo Qinghuan had a bad feeling. No. She sprang to her feet, her face dark. When did his Royal Highness come? She asked hurriedly. Chiuziu knew he had caught Zhuo Qinghuan's attention. His Royal Highness has been there since Feng Wu's first battle. His eyes lit up every time Feng Wu won. Zhuo Qinghuan didn't know what to say. Chiuziu glanced at her and added, what if she can defeat Lv Haobei and Xing Changtian? Feng Wu bragged that she would defeat all 5 players of the military academy. If that really happens, she'll be so popular among the students. Moreover, His Royal Highness is watching too. He's your fiancé now, but what if he falls in love with Feng Wu? Qiu Ziyu tried to prod Zhuo Qingluan into action. I'm sorry to say this, but Feng Wu is prettier. Shut up. Zhuo Qingluan waved her hand, and Qiu Ziyu smashed into the wall. He fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhuo Qingluan glared at Qiu Ziyu as if she was going to kill him. The intimidating power made Qiu Ziyu's heart beat fast, and he didn't dare say a word. Zhuo Qingluan took out a dagger. The blade glinted in the sunlight. Qiu Ziyu paled. He was terrified. Was Zhuo Qingluan going to kill him? He had only been telling the truth. Zhuo Qingluan wasn't as pretty as Feng Wu. No, he shouldn't have said that. Was he going to die? He was about to beg for mercy, when Zhuo Qingluan made her move. Instead of attacking Qiu Ziyu, she slid the blade across her palm. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.